Personality refers to the enduring, that is the permanent or lasting characteristics and behavior that is made up of a person's unique adaptation, preference, and orientation or perspective to life. It is shaped by innate dispositions, that is inherent or inborn qualities, remaining relatively consistent throughout life. Definitions of personality focus on the patterns of behavior and characteristics that help predict and explain a person's actions. An individual's personality is made up of traits and patterns that impact their behavior, thoughts, motivation, and emotions. So our personality impacts us as a whole. These patterns shape personal experiences, perceptions, how we see things. Okay. These patterns, our personality, shape our personal expectations, the perceptions, our values, and our attitudes, contributing to each person's uniqueness. Personality is not a definition of who we are as individuals. It is a natural way of looking at how we are put together. How, not who. It is natural for our minds to perceive and judge. Our brain is formed to judge, and that's okay. So it's natural for our minds to perceive and judge what's going on around us, to understand the world around us. So what does our personality preference used for then? They reveal our preferred strengths, those things we prefer to operate in. So some people are organized, other people are spontaneous, other people are observant. So they prefer to operate through those strengths with their world. And that shape our behavior. That shape how we're going to act in situations. And that is what sets us apart from others. So people get to know us like that. That's cool, right? But we need to shape it. So they provide, our preferences provide insight into how we perceive situations and people. Okay? So we're going to have a certain judgment or a certain perception about what's going on around us due to our personality. And we need to be aware of that and manage that, because it shapes our behavior and it sets us apart from others. But this is one important thing. Personality is not there to label and judge others or ourselves. Okay, don't label. Don't say, oh, you observers. So we don't do that, okay? Because the person is more than their personality. All right. Carl Jung says, who looks outside dreams, but who looks inside wakes. And so he suggests that regardless of our personality type, we must engage with both our inner and outer worlds. We can't choose. Okay, we need to accept that we have a certain personality, but that doesn't mean that the other personalities is playing off around us. And we need to respect and be open to it. So our personality type should not be an excuse to ignore aspects of the world that we don't want to be a part of. So if you're observant and you don't want to be a part of the noise and the busyness or the connecting with other people or getting to know or going out with your colleagues, guess what? Then you're gonna, not have relationship. So sometimes we need to push ourselves, right? So instead, it reflects our comfort zones, and that is something we want to challenge, and our chosen approach to dealing with the world. So we can honor that and know that after socializing, we can go back and chill, right? So Carl Jung also once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. This insight highlights the power of personality awareness in personal growth, balance, and self-discovery. Understanding our own personality preferences not only helps us navigate life more effectively, but also allows us to appreciate the difference in others. What once irritated us can shift us into understanding and even spark meaningful conversation to say, wow, I never thought that is what you meant. But now that I understand your personality preference, I get it. How can we do this together to perhaps do it differently so that we can both be honored? Our both preferences can be honored. Okay, so it can be a very powerful tool for conversation and for growth, right? While our personality type stays relatively stable, different traits serve us in different seasons of our life. So for example, my structured, organized side, which craves efficiency and order, helps me juggle the demands of running a business while raising school-age children, right? Meanwhile, my spontaneous, adventurous side enriches my relationships and opens me up to new experiences. The key is knowing when to lean into each strength to thrive in a situation. Jung had another quote, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. That is, it highlights the importance of confronting our own flaws and triggers, our darkness. When we understand what irritates us in others, it's often a reflection of something within ourselves that we haven't fully accepted or dealt with. This awareness allows us to grow, heal, and become more compassionate toward both ourselves and others. For example, if you find ourselves irritated by someone else's need for control, for instance, it might be worth exploring whether we too might struggle with letting go of control in certain situations. Our personality traits, when triggered, can become exaggerated and show us areas we need to heal. For instance, someone who typically values structure and order might become overly rigid and stressed in chaotic environments, whereas their spontaneous side, when triggered, might show up as impulsiveness, leading to regretful decisions. Does that make sense? Remember that even strengths thus become weaknesses when it gets exaggerated, when it gets overused, because we get triggered. Okay, then our brain wants to use our strengths because that's usually how it gets things done, but it pushes it too far because we actually just need to sit back and calm ourselves, right? It's like painting every room in your house red. While the color red is very pretty, it loses its appeal when it's everywhere, right? It's the same. Similarly, our strengths can benefit us greatly when used appropriately, but when overused in situations where they are no longer beneficial, they can become weaknesses. Understanding how our strengths shift when triggered gives us the opportunity to regain our balance. So it's knowing when we go into our triggered use of our strengths, and then we can stop. Okay, it's good self-awareness. So type development is a lifelong journey where we learn to shape and mature our strengths while also acknowledging and addressing areas of growth. Knowing your personality type isn't a one-size-fits-all answer, but it's a powerful tool to help navigate challenges, develop resilience, and move forward in life with greater self-awareness and peace. We have type versus traits foundational personality assessments. The types, like Myers-Briggs, is a type-based personality profile. The traits are like Enneagram, the Big Five. Okay, so type assessments, they sort people into personality types. They use labels like extrovert or introvert. Their categories can feel restrictive, but they help explain easily why people act the way they do. It's easy to say, but it's also easy then to label, to say, oh, you're extrovert, so you will behave socially and perhaps be loud, or will be social and active in conversations. Okay, that can be very labeling because not all extroverts are like that, but we'll get to traits later on. But it's also support the development of behavior theories, because then it's easier to say, okay, if you're extroverted, be careful not to be overly engaging and to speak over other people, to give other people that's perhaps introverts opportunity to speak. So it's easy to then, calculate in your mind strategies to curb your behavior. But despite limits, they help create personalized strategies, as I've mentioned. Now, trait-based preferences assessments, they assess how strongly people display certain traits. Like there's something like ambiverts, which is on a continuum, okay, of extroversion and introversion. So the ambivert is in the middle. It provides a detailed view of traits that has a level in individuals, a continuum. So you can be a little bit more extroverted or a little bit more introverted, or just an ambivert that's sometimes more introverted and sometimes more extroverted. But it also makes sense to know that I'm not just an extrovert. I can still be an extrovert, but I'm not a roaring extrovert. On the other side, the extreme side of the spectrum, I'm perhaps closer to the ambivert side. So that really helped me, because that is me more. So it's great for research, but it's sometimes more complex to explain and to figure out what do I need to do with that. So I'm not a roaring extrovert, just a little bit of an extrovert, but it is rich in reflection and it makes it more personal. So I enjoy that. There are 5 personality aspects. So we are going to use the NERIS model, the assessment you're going to do, and it combines the simplicity of the Myers-Briggs, which is the 4 aspects, with the scientific validity of the Big 5 personality traits, which adds the 5th one. It uses 5 independent spectrums to define personality types, focusing on 5 aspects. The first one is, what is our favorite world? Do you prefer the outer world? Is that your favorite world? Or the inner world? Is that your favorite world? For instance, extroversion is the outward-oriented, the action-oriented, the energized by social interactions. The introversion is the inward-oriented, thought-oriented, recharged by alone time and being able to think about something. Then there's the information aspect. Do you focus on basic information or interpret and add meaning? For instance, the sensing, the S, the sensors, they pay attention to the reality, the facts, the details, and the practical experiences they're having. They're hands-on, right? And then the intuitions, they add information. They focus on patterns, impressions that they're getting, possibilities, imagination, or future possibilities. Okay. Then the third aspect is, how do you make decisions? Do you prioritize logic and consistency, or people pleasing and special circumstances? Are you more empathic, empath? So the thinking, the T's, the thinkers, they emphasize facts, objectivity, and rationality in their decision making. Where the feelers, the F, the feelings, they consider emotions, people, empathy of the situation, social harmony, and cooperation. Okay. You will see if that is yours, right? Then the fourth one is structure. How do you structure a world? Do you prefer decided outcomes, or do you like staying open to new information and options? So the judgers, J, judging, they structure the life. They value structure, okay? They have firm decisions, clarity, predictability, and they like planning. And then you get your P's, your perceivings. They don't like structure. They embrace the flexibility. But structure is good for them, but they embrace the flexibility. They're very adaptable, improvisation, good at winging it on the fly. But they also like keeping their options open. Okay. And then fifthly, the one that's added now from Myers-Briggs, the fifth one, is regarding identity. How do you reflect your confidence in abilities and decisions? Okay. The one is assertive. That means you're self-assured, even-tempered, resistant to stress, and not overly concerned. And then the turbulence, the T's. They are self-conscious, sensitive to stress, driven to improve, and experience a range of information. Remember that these aspects represent spectrums, and individuals may fall somewhere along the continuum of each aspect. And we have all of them in us, okay? So if you're a judger, remember, you don't have a loss of perceiving. You just prefer judging more. Or if you're a thinker, remember, it's not that you have a loss of feelings. No, you can also think, make sense of the world with your feelings, but you prefer it to be in a thinking environment, structured, factual, okay? So the NERIS model helps us understand and describe different preferences within these aspects, contributing to a better understanding of personality. And that's the profile we're going to do. So personality types can be grouped into 4 categories called roles: the analysts, diplomats, sentinels, and the explorers. So each role includes specific combinations of preferences and variations in assertiveness and turbulence. They can all be either assertive or turbulent variants. So the fifth aspect, we can all be, it doesn't correlate with a specific role, okay? But there are specific 4 roles that people are grouped into, okay? So if you're the NT types, the intuitive and thinking type, you have intuition and you choose to structure a world around thinking. They are the analysts. If you're the intuitive but feeling types, the NF types, you are the diplomats. If you are observant and judging, the SJ types, you are sentinels. But if you are observant and prospecting, perceiving types, SPs, you are explorers. Okay. So your personality type is represented by a code with 5 letters, which categorizes you within one of these roles. Understanding your personality type helps you explore and comprehend your own strengths, weaknesses, interests, career preferences, and compatibility with others. So personality type tables can also, like this one, can also be used to gather and analyze information about teams or specific groups of people, so one can group all our codes together so one can see where we lie. Are we analysts? Are we sentinels? What is our team made up of? Sometimes engineers are a lot of analysts. For instance, I'm making a big labeling, but it can happen. And then one knows what one needs to work on as a team or what support we need as a team. It's important to note that all types are equal and there is no best or better type, okay? The goal of knowing about personality type is to appreciate and understand the difference between individuals. It is not a tool to judge or to identify dysfunction or abnormality. There isn't a dysfunctional or abnormal personality. There is only dysfunctional or abnormal persons as a whole because of other factors, okay, psychotic factors, okay. So it's rather to help you gain self-awareness and personal growth. So the personal awareness activity has 2 purposes. One is for you to use your list of strengths you're going to gain from this personality assessment as affirmation words later on to formulate your affirmations. But secondly, a bonus, it is to thoroughly reflect on your personality as a whole and use this opportunity to understand the impact of your personality on the perceptions of your life, on your perceptions of life, and how we need to manage our personality to become who we need to be and reach what we need to reach. So here is the steps. You need to go to your lesson notes, the session notes document, and please read through these steps. Okay. Please note you need to go to a website, and please follow these steps to get to after you've completed your assessment and familiarize yourself with your profile. When you want to identify your strengths that you need to list, please come back here to see where to find it. There's a thorough step-by-step approach how to get to your strengths, okay, as well as your weaknesses, but we're going to mainly use your strengths for the affirmations activity. This challenge aims to help you understand yourself better and foster personal development. So take the time to reflect and consider how you can grow in managing your strengths and weaknesses for improved self-awareness of strengths and for the final affirmation activity in this document.